Alright, it is going to be a weekly recap from the 20th to the 24th, and I had a lot more trades, although not too many compared to some weeks. I did have 8 trades, 6 of them were green trades, a 75% winning percentage, and my average dollar gain and dollar loss were pretty close, but I guess it really helps that I have a good winning percentage. My average percent gain was definitely smaller than my average percent loss, and that's because I'm not sure if I counted this one. I'm pretty sure I didn't, because this thing is just pretty much break even, but I did have like a bit of a just very small freaking just very tiny scalpy trades, and this is the one that really got to me and really affected the average percent loss, because I only had 2 losses, and this one was a very low flow stock that just moved with a lot of range, and it wasn't a good setup either. My average dollar size was smaller than my average dollar size on a losing trade, because this one right here I did trade a larger $1,300 position, but it wasn't one in one out. This wasn't really an ideal way that I traded it. I think there is a lot of improvement now. I think on top of that, it is good that I am trying to do these multi-day breakout setups where I have to hold on the trade longer. But to really summarize it, more morning panic bounce plays, and there were also some longer term setups that I was able to try and learn from, but I need to keep doing better. I did trade a larger dollar volume than I have recently. I mean, $5,600. The last time I got anywhere as close to that was back here, so that was pretty much more than a month ago at this point, almost 2 months ago. I think it's pretty good, because I am trying to do some of these setups a lot differently, and there is a lot of things that I have to get better at, especially with morning panic bounce plays. There were several morning panic bounce play setups, and I didn't necessarily trade all of them perfectly. I did better on this last day, but even this last day I could have done a bunch of things better. In terms of the setups, this is maybe the first time in a while, if ever, that I've gotten a perfect. I guess last week I didn't really record it last week. I don't know how I ended up with the same score as I did last week, but they are clearly different trades. Last week just didn't have a lot of trades, so I guess that could have been why. But in terms of setups, I did get that, so I guess I am trying to do good setups that aren't really bad. Again, this one was the worst one right here, and that's why I got that yellow mark, because it did work, but it wasn't really too ideal. In terms of how I traded it, I felt like I could have done better, and it seems like that reflected into a C-. What I'm going to do now is just go ahead and go over all of the trades here, Tim Lentil style, and yeah, 8 trades. There's a lot more trades. Maybe there are going to be some nice trades this week as well, God willing. But let's go ahead and look at TGGI, which is a morning panic bounce play for the 20th. This is TGGI. This one is continuously uptrending. It still has a lot of room for improvement, but it looks like maybe the second day after it broke past this 86, 87 level. Let's look at the 20th, because it was a morning panic bounce play and did have a wick right here. Let's go ahead and highlight. Let's say from right here is fine. My entry was, and I added this new section here. This is going to be something I'm going to look at more. I'm going to write down exactly where I risked, what was my risk level, whether it's like the day low for like a morning panic bounce play, or red to green VWAP. I think that could help me see maybe which risk levels work better with what certain type of setups I'm trading. I was risking a range low. My entry was 932, 9125. 932 was this doji candle, 91, so basically right in the middle, right there in that doji candle. It didn't necessarily downtrend a lot, did it? It went from 1 to, okay, so like give or take a 10% drop. Nothing too crazy. That was my entry at 932. I got out 2 minutes later at 925. So 934 right here, 925. So near the bottom here. So again, I was in here and I sold here just right under VWAP, and it did head lower actually. It got as low as 87, and I remember this was like, you know, the original breakout level, support level. It seems like it held it, and that made it a super nice setup. But I was playing just the initial morning panic bounce play. This is one of the few examples where it touches VWAP and then it actually gets lower than the range low, which would have been right here, right? And then it comes back and breaks past it. It's nice to see one of these things because a lot of them, especially recently, they have their bottom, they touch VWAP, they downtrend a little bit, and never breaks the day low like it did here, and then it breaks through VWAP. This is a good reminder that not all of them are the same way, and this is an example where I probably traded this one nicely just because I was going for VWAP and only VWAP. That's a really good reminder because honestly I was thinking of trading a large size, trying to sell half, you know, at VWAP, and then hold the other half in expectation that maybe it might downtrend a little or hold VWAP but not break the day low and then break further. And this one clearly would be one where maybe I have to cut losses quickly on the other half, but it did make the move eventually, which is nice. That's a really good one to watch. That was a good recap. Unsure position and sold at VWAP in theory. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I remember that issue now with Schwab where I did place an order and I didn't know if I was executed or not. I placed another order and both of them went through, and then the thing was trading right at VWAP, and that's when I sold. That really wasn't that bad at all. That was a $900 position here. I did finish, I don't know if I went over it or not, I did finish the week off 52 bucks, but I could have done a lot of things better. I really like seeing this because that was a great example of one where it actually broke the day low. It doesn't seem that common, so I might be interested in doing what I said there, trading a large size, selling half ideally at the VWAP level or whatever the range is at VWAP, and then hold the other half in hopes that, you know, it does what a lot of these tend to do and just continue to make a move past VWAP. So that was a great example once again. Let's look at the next one. This was the bad trade. Very sketchy stock. I wonder if it's still holding itself. Let's look at BONZ for the 20th, and this was a gradual first dip towards VWAP. I guess we'll do it from here. The 20th is right about there. Alright, I'm sorry I had to do something. I'm back. But yeah, this one is actually still holding its level. It did have a high right here at almost, yeah, 3.5 pennies give or take, and this was the first day. I'm actually surprised it's still holding there because a lot of these, they just have this one day spike and the next day it's just back to where it was, or if not the day after that. Let's look at this one for that setup. It did do a horrible fade, but it did do a nice spike in the beginning. My entry was 268 and that was 954, so let's look at 268 for 954. I'll probably just zoom in a bit closer, but it did fade the rest of the day. So 954 was right here. This green candle, then that was 268. So not really the best entry, I guess, but my theory was that this thing had this downtrend, it hit VWAP, and now it might try to make a nice spike, a nice uptrend, and although it wasn't in favor this time, it does trade with a very low flow, so it can make some very nice percent gains. And yeah, that was my entry at what was it, 954, right? Yeah, right here. So this candle, it held it, and I bought the candle afterward. Maybe not the best entry there, but there's nothing too wrong waiting for some kind of a confirmation. My sell was 2 minutes later, 956 at 25.25. So 956 was right here. This one, this red candle actually 25. Probably right here, 25.25. So what happened? You know, I did get in this candle and it was looking nice. It did uptrend a bit more here. I got to 27.9, and I think I even tried to sell some there, but I didn't either push myself to actually sell or I was too slow. And I did sell here because at the time it cracked under VWAP and then it kind of came back. Sure, in theory it held itself and I had a crappy percent loss, but you know, I'm always going to try to protect, especially if it just downtrends the way it did here. Maybe I was just absolutely played in this setup because it did get as high as 28.7, but I think a lot of people, not just me, were expecting or at least wanting more, and it did do a very gradual downtrend. I mean, I don't know what was the ultimate low, but as you can see, it got to freaking 14, which was super depressing for anybody who was in that setup. And had I have, you know, bag held this setup like some kind of idiot, 26 was the level. You know, I would have had to have held like a few days before I even had a tiny chance of being able to sell for break even or a tiny profit. So I do like that I got out of it. Maybe I just played myself. Perhaps I risked VWAP, but maybe if I risked the candle from that previous move, I guess further back. Let me just try to bring this back to where it was. Yeah, so maybe if I try to risk the wick here, I would have still held the trade, but that seems a bit sketchy. I probably shouldn't have traded it once again because this was a gradual drop towards VWAP, and the ones that really seem to work extremely nicely are the ones that have a very quick drop. Although I've seen some of these gradual ones work, but maybe I shouldn't have traded something like this that was having a very just very sketchy, very, you know, scary price action because of its low float. Next one is CEI. This was a short setup, kind of a weird explanation. First red day gap down, backside short. Let's look at the 20th for CEI. This one's kind of a weird one. I was trying to trade a larger size, but I was not able to get executed because the money I deposited on my E-Trade account wasn't officially through yet. And although now it is, you know, much higher, it kind of broke out of this range. At the time, it was looking very nice. You know, it was looking like the backside of the move was potentially in. However, I understood that a lot of people are shorting the heck out of this stock, which means this could potentially do what it did and make some kind of a short squeeze. So I was only in it for just one day, and I could have held this one a lot better, but let's just go ahead and look at it. This is the 20th, and I guess I'll have a little bit of the pre-market price action too, since it is a listed stock. My entry was 164 at 11.20, so let's look at 11.20, 164, right about later in the day, actually, right here, 11.20. So this was my short right when it did that transition from the range here, which was 165, 164 to 164 and 163. Right when it broke that range, I liked it because it did have that panic here to 136, and then it came back and it wasn't able to get back to yesterday's highs. And I think I was risking red to green. Yep, I was risking red to green, and that really worked here. You know, I kept putting up lower highs. I was scared of it a little because it looked like an inverse head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulder, and then the second higher low. But once it started to like fail right here and it did that transition, that's when I got in. And yeah, it did get as low as what, 141. I traded a tiny size here, but I would have been interested in trading 300 shares, which is still small, but that would have helped. You know, it would have been just a little more profitable, and it would have helped with my stats a little bit here too. But yeah, that was the thing there. I was just able to trade with the money I already had in E-Trade. And you know, in theory now I could be interested in shorting it with a larger size, but not anymore because it is trying to squeeze. So yeah, I held this one for 27 minutes, which is a record I think in general, because I tend to be horrible holding these setups, and I found like a little baby reason to get out of it, but it continued to work. Maybe if I was short more shares, I would have considered holding it for longer, but my cover was 161, 1148. So let's look at 1148 right here. And why did I cover here? Because it did drop towards VWAP, and it does seem to kind of play off of VWAP, so I thought maybe it could bounce back and maybe it'll find resistance and then put up a lower high and continue a downtrend, which is clearly what it did right here, but it just was a reason for me to get out. And it did reverse just a little bit. I mean, from that 1.6 level to 1.63, that was it. That was really all that there was to it. And it did downtrend more, but you know, the low here was at 3 o'clock, 3:27. So I would have held this thing for like 4 more hours. And you know, for just a tiny position, I don't know, you know, it was still nice. I felt like I learned from it. I felt like it was super nice to, you know, be in a short setup for the first time in many months like that. But that was clearly the case there, and overall I think I learned a lot from it, and I'm really happy with that setup. And I wasn't going to be some kind of a long-term short seller, or, you know, just some crazy position. Oh, the thing is a pump, because that thing could easily squeeze like it's doing. And now let's look at the 21st for ILUS, and this was one of the next morning panic bounce plays. So let's look at the 21st for ILUS once again. That was the 21st, first red day. It did come back and hold near its highs eventually, but at the time it was looking pretty nice, being a first red day, and it did have a downtrend afterwards. The 21st is back here. Let's go ahead and I guess highlight from this level. That seems about right. I didn't really like the way I traded this one, but yeah, I had 2 entries here, and I think I can remember it. This is an average. This isn't my, you know, first and second. This is my first and second entry combined. It's not like I went one time in, one time out. But let's look at 933. I was out by 935. 933 was right here. So this is when yeah, my first entry, now that I'm looking at this, was, I think it was 932. Or maybe I got it. No. Yeah, this was it. I think I had 2 entries in the same minute. Yeah, so the idea was that it was having a morning panic bounce play. I thought it was going to hold. And this one did not hold at the first level. I kind of went further down, and then I did get a super nice entry, the second entry, and then I sold at 935 at 33.7. So 935, 33.7. I didn't even get a good sell because this thing had a stupid wick down just to scare people like me out before it turned around. But that was a good lesson. I think that was it because I just wasn't able to cut the trade quickly. Yeah, okay. So it wasn't really that bad because sometimes with morning panic bounce play setups, you're risking the low, the range, the low, you know, of a certain candle, and then it just breaks past it, and that really sucks, especially if you try cutting losses the moment it breaks, but you can't because it just has a tsunami panic. This was not a bad trade because, again, at least I tried to sell. I had an issue later this last week where I was with a, you know, I did have a chance to cut the trade as soon as the range low broke, but that was yeah, I did that better much here. And then I did sell here, which kind of sucks because, you know, I did get to this level, but, you know, it did turn around as well here. I was interested in the turnaround, but I thought it could potentially get closer to the range, you know, the low range right here, but it did turn around. I'm gonna get a water. I'll be back, but yeah, this was a good example of a trade where you can't cut losses quickly if it's having like a tsunami type panic, and you know, that's why you never go a large position, you know, compared to the size of your account. because there are just things like that you might not be in control over, including halts or just financings intraday. Plenty of examples like that. Alright, I am back. Let's look at the next one, which is FERN, and this was one of those multi-day breakout setup attempts. So let's look at FERN for the 21st. Right about here was the 21st, and yeah, it clearly broke out of this, I'd say 26 range. It did have a nice close at 33, but it did have a crappy red day afterward, but it's still uptrending, which is pretty impressive. Yeah, let's look at the 21st for FERN. You can see just a nice uptrend here. My entry was 1127 at 2695. 1127, which was right about here, 27 2695. So right between 20, yeah, right around that level, give or take. So that was my entry here, and I kind of learned this from watching some of Tim Bertani's videos. Sometimes when you're in a setup like this, you have an entry, but it could have been at a better price, but you're just thinking about the overall pattern in mind, and as long as it doesn't break your risk level, there's nothing to really worry about. And here it was an example where I was risking VWAP, which it never broke the rest of the day. Had I have been hard-headed and just try to really hold as long as I could, this thing could have been a super profitable setup, because they got to 33 and my entry was at 27, give or take. And I sold about 21 minutes later, 11:48 at 274. So let's look at 11:48 274, which was right here. And yeah, so let's just try to bring this a little closer, just so it doesn't look so small. That kind of helped a little bit. Yeah, I sold right here 11:48. Again, I was in this range. It did have some sketchy downtrends, but it never broke VWAP, which was my risk level. And then it just had this random, like I've never seen this before, it just lifted up at a higher level. And when it just lifted up at a higher level, it just had this gap in the air. It was just floating, and I was kind of scared. I kind of forgot about the overall setup, just thinking like, why is it all the way up here like this? I wanted a nice over time uptrend, which it did do. But when it just jumped like that, I thought maybe there would be some sells immediately pushing near the bottom. And hey, I've been holding this thing for 20 minutes. Not even a large size. It is a tiny size. A $269 position. Why don't I just sell? If I can get hit up there, that's fine. And I did. And it did continue to do that uptrend. But I don't mind that I sold there, even though it did such a nice move afterwards. It's not like I would have sold at the end of the day. I probably might have considered selling right around here, because there was like a head and shoulders, not a nice looking head and shoulders, but because of here we were getting lower highs and then lower lows. I might have actually sold anywhere down there. I doubt I would have held towards 33, but if I can be more patient, trade a larger size, and maybe sell in pieces instead of one in and one out, I could potentially be able to be a lot more profitable, and I don't see why I can't do something like that. I don't mind my sell there once again, but I think I had a very good attempt, just trying to get better at a setup that I'm not too used to. I think that was overall a pretty nice one. And it was a tiny size. I can't push myself to trade larger size. The last 3 trades, these are all morning panic bounce plays. Let's look at ISWH for the 23rd. Right about here's the 23rd, first red candle. It did have another red day, but I traded this one. It did have a wick. It did turn around nicely. The 23rd is right here. Let's just highlight from this level. And my entry was 934, 312, 934. That was my first entry. I had 2 entries. This is one where I did not trade very nicely. It says right here One was at 322 and another one at 305. And I was probably playing it off of this range right here. 2 red candles. Maybe it's trying to hold. It was holding for a moment until it didn't hold. And the problem was is that when this thing broke the day low, I should have cut losses quickly, and it did give me a chance, unlike IOUS, that other trade, to get out for just a tiny loss. But that day I had such horrible sleep deprivation. I had this issue where I would go to sleep late, and then finally when I go to bed to sleep, now my body just doesn't want to freaking sleep, and it just wants to think of a million things. And you know, the entire day before that, I was just it was crazy. It's like the whole day I'm tired, and then when I lay down to go to sleep, I have all the energy in the world, and I was just dealing with that mess. It broke the low, and I did not cut losses quickly. At one point I was down a significant amount, even though this thing was a quick wick and it came back. And then I placed my second entry, I believe here or maybe here, at 305, and my ultimate sell was 939, 319.5. So 939 was right here. It was a red candle. 319.5. So give or take was a sell right here. Again, I had one entry here, one entry here, and then I sold here because that was VWAP. It did just finish nicely at the 330 level. It did put up a higher low. Out of curiosity, what would have been a sell at 330? Wow, it would have been super profitable. And that's because I was trading with a large position size, because I had 2 entries. And I did trade 200 shares in the first move back here, and then here I traded 300 shares. I'm actually surprised how profitable this would have been had I have held towards that 330 range. It didn't like have a sketchy drop or anything afterward. It just kind of held this level for the rest of the day. And yeah, had I have maybe have done this a little better, had I have had more sleep, I could have traded it better. But I'm going to try doing that, where I'm going to try, for example, I get in here at 296 for a morning panic bounce play, a large size, like at least $1,000, $1,000 to $3,000, risk of the day low, which would have been right here. I don't think I would have risked the wick. That would have been a bit too much, so I'm in there and I risk it, and then I try selling half at that VWAP level, or maybe like here because it touched VWAP. It has a higher low, and then I try to sell the rest after it breaks VWAP. I've seen this a bunch of times. This was very common last week. Hopefully there can be a few of these for this week. And again, what was that other one? TGGI. It actually made a lower low, like it broke under the previous bottom of the panic, but even that one turned around and went past VWAP. So I'm going to try that, especially when these are at their highs, because a lot of them, they try to have like these little sketchy morning panics to maybe lure in some short sellers, and then they just bring it back up like nothing's happening, and then after that it keeps uptrending. So that is the blueprint I have in mind. I think that can help me be super profitable this week. Maybe not, but I think it's going to be a good idea, a good plan. It's something that I've seen work consistently. It's not because I think I'm so smart, it's because I see it happening so many times. That's a great thing I have in mind, and I'm going to be trying that. Let's look at the next one. IOUS, I traded it 2 more times, and it was the same day. So this is one where I traded a little better in theory. As you can see here, I said yes, the setup worked here, and here was a big yes, because this one worked over a longer period of time, as in how I traded it. This one was okay, and then the second one I said that I traded it well. The issue with the first one here is that I didn't risk the level. I was playing too chicken. Let's look at IOUS for the 24th, which I believe is the last day of the week, right? Yeah, that's the 24th, another red day. Small wick now, but it was looking nice. Let's just do it from here. And as you can tell, this thing did get as high as 42, although it also got near 42 at 1036. This was the setup morning panic bounce play. The first one I was in $700 position, $300 position afterwards because it was just a little sketchy for me. 932, 361. 932 was this green candle. 361 flat, so that was a pretty killer entry. Level 2 reversal. In theory, I should have been risking 36, but I was too damn chicken. Let me try to zoom in and bring this thing a bit closer. This was a high right here. Yeah, 36.1. Too damn scared. I sold the next minute at just slightly higher, 361135. So 933, 3611. So yeah, just right about here. So what happened was that I did get that killer entry, and then I had this sketchy spike towards VWAP. I tried selling there, but I wasn't able to because I used a limit order, and this was a case where a market order would have gotten me a lot better. It would have gotten me out at the highs, but I placed a limit order, and what happened was that the bid and the ask kept downtrending, so I just sat there with my order. I didn't get executed because my limit price was too high, and then it came all the way back down and closed here. And then it had this sketchy thing where it opens with a tiny gap down because this thing was downtrending, and then it has that little downtrend there, and I got out for that reason. It was again 933, but very early in the minute, and then it came back here to the VWAP level, and then it had another candle just plain stupid freaking sketchy, but I don't mind it too much. If I had risked 36, and not have been so scared as it was trying to turn around there, I probably could have been able to sell at its highs. Let's just see what a sell at 37.21 would have been. It would have been a little more profitable. Just a little bit, but I feel like I would have traded it that much better if I did that. And then I do like the last part of the setup. 924, same day and everything, but now I'm trading a smaller size. I probably should have went larger, but at that time I was scared. I was just too scared. I should have risked that 36 level again. And my entry was 937 at 36.2. So let's look at 36.2 for 937. Right here, the red candle was my entry right here, 36.2. And I sold, the next minute, 938 at 37.55. 938 was right here, 37.55. So at the very tippy top of this green candle, again, I bought here and I sold here. And I've seen this, like again, with the other ILUS setup, it didn't have this comeback at the lows from the previous panic. It was a higher low. In this case, this was a double bottom, and I've seen this a lot of times for me to now be interested in trading it. And again, that's what happened. It had that panic, it hit VWAP, it went back down, but it held the lows, right? And then that's when I get in, and this is the one where I can break past VWAP. So if I'm gonna just go ahead and make this quick, in theory, what I want to do this week, it has a morning panic. I buy a level 2 reversal, a large size. I try selling half at VWAP in case, it does something like TGGI where it breaks the day low, it downtrends, it breaks the day low right here, and I have to cut losses on the other half, but maybe I'm still profitable, maybe just a tiny loss or break even, but I do sell, half at its highs right there at the VWAP level. And then, but ideally, it doesn't break it like it did here. It holds it. And then I'm going to sell the other half as it breaks, much past VWAP. And maybe it tries to find a top at some point. If I'm extra, ready, I can try going off of higher lows. So here was the bottom again. It makes a higher low. It makes a higher high. Makes a higher low. Makes a higher high. And then eventually, right, it makes a higher low. It doesn't make a higher high. It's a lower high, downtrending. Maybe I'll sell here at 40, right? That can be a super successful setup. What would have been if had I sold at 40? That would have been a 10% move, and that's trading, you know, with a tiny $360 position. If I was trading that on E-Trade, I'd probably easily lose money because of commission. So I do need to trade larger in that sense. That's all I got. That's the framework I have in mind for this week. You know, if there are morning panic bounce plays and I'm there, God willing, I can try this and get better. I can be a lot more profitable. I can try trading a larger size, because even though it might be nerve-wracking, I will be trying to sell half at VWAP, and then ideally, you know, it does something where it comes back higher, breaks past it, puts up higher lows, or maybe I just sell as soon as it puts up a new high. You know, just trying to get better at morning panic bounce plays. I think it's a good framework I have in mind. Obviously, it could fail drastically, but that's trading. I think it's just constantly trying to adapt, find better ways to trade this. Not all of them is going to work out, like TGGI clearly didn't, but I think there's a lot of good potential. I look forward to this week, and yeah, I just got to give it my best. Pretty good weekly recap. A lot of things that I have to get better at. I do need to cut losses quickly when the range breaks, the day low breaks. At least try. If I'm not able to sell, fine. You know, at least I tried, and that's why I never put a large size. I mean, I might say large size, $1,000 to $3,000 position, but I'm not saying all in. I'm not saying, you know, more than half of your accounts. I'm not crazy like that, but I am trying to push myself further, and I think this weekly recap really helped me just understand this, and I hope all of you guys who are watching this as well can learn from it too. That's all I got.